Hey Facebook friends, Marianne here. I want to reach out to all of you today because I know that there are so many different emotions. And if you're like me, you're going, "Ah!" And that's completely natural. So I have many friends who are Republican, who are Democrat, who are independent like me. And obviously, as a bi, brown, female who cares about the environment, I was for Kamala. Obviously, as someone from Mexico, I did not like being called an infestation. And obviously, as a Latina, I did not like hearing that someone thought that my existence was dirtying the blood of America. Obviously, those that voted for Trump made me, among friends and family, made me feel like, oh, well, then they must agree that my presence is dirtying the blood of America. So, yeah, there's a lot of that emotion. And I'll be honest, I won't be able to look at anyone who's so pro-Trump without thinking to myself, so you think I'm dirtying the blood of America? I cannot help but take that personally. So I'm saying all this in a bit of jest, but it is true. It is deeply felt, and it hurts. It hurts deeply in here. But what I also recognize is that those of you who voted for Trump voted for, it seems to me, two main things. And I want to express that for my progressive friends to understand where I think you're coming from. One of them is many of you care deeply about abortion, and you truly see that as a genocide. And in your mind, the amount of deaths that happen from women going septic and whatnot is minuscule compared to the amount of potential lives that could be saved from preventing abortion. Obviously, I immensely disagree with that, but I recognize that you see that as the preservation of life and one of the most important things to protect. The other thing that I hear from a lot of you who are sometimes articulating it loudly, sometimes subtly in the subconscious, but it seems to be that there are a lot of white friends and family who are very much protective of the status quo, of trying to protect where you feel your power comes from. And I'm not demonizing that, because it's normal and natural as a human being to want to maintain your source of control and power in your life, because as we become from children to adulthood, we try in a mass, whether it's in money or societal influence or anything other thing, we want to have as much power around us because it's security and it's the potential fuel to help us get to where we want to go. And in America, the unique thing that I've learned from going all around the world in many third situations is the amazing freedom we have in the United States of America is the capacity to know that if we work hard, we will get to eat that day. When you go to a lot of third world countries, they work so hard and there's no guarantee they will get food or clean water. And there's no guarantee that they'll get a home or any of these other things. And in America, there are people on both the progressive and conservative side who have also been working very, very hard and can't seem to get that American dream. And among the Republican side, there are a lot of struggling white families that are sick and tired of hearing that they are privileged because they've never felt privileged. And yet, the only thing that's given them any source of power is their race. I cannot demonize that because they're holding on to the one thing that seems to give them some sense of prestige and personal value. The one thing that I can learn from that as a progressive is that I need to look over there and say, what am I not doing to assure them that I see value in them? And I know it's a very hard thing to have empathy when you're fearing the actions of the person that you're trying to struggle to have empathy for. But I understand that. From those of you that are Republican, please understand that it is very scary for someone like me to now live in a country where you have Chief Justice Clarence Thomas and others who said that what they cited to overturn Roe versus Wade in the 1800s is something that can also be applied to overturn interracial marriage and gay marriage and things like that. And it's scary to me that that's even being thought about. And it's scary to me that Trump has said that in his first few days he will plans to use the military to round up his enemies, that he wants to get rid of the licenses of media that oppose him, and go on down the list. I take his threats, and I do see them as threats very literally, and I worry deeply about the democracy of the United States. And I wanted to speak out because as a brown-skinned, bisexual female, I fit a lot of the categories that Trump's stance and podium claims to hate, claims to think is hurting America. And yet I'm a humanitarian and activist, and I try very hard to make a positive difference in this world. And if there's any part of what I've done in my life that has helped any of you, both progressive and conservative and moderate and independents, Republicans, Democrats, please know that the only difference between me and many of the people who Trump despises and claims are dirtying the blood of America, the only difference between me and any of them is that someone believed in me enough to give me an opportunity. And the fact that I have now spoken around the world at the House of Lords, at the United Nations, and the White House, and all these other things, and I'm here in London about to speak, the only reason I can do that is because my family invested in me and helped this kid with a hearing loss to learn how to speak words that I can't even naturally do. And that means that some of pre-existing conditions, like me, with my hearing loss, with my seizures, with my migraines, with my asthma, can still give something positive to society. And that's what I hope those of you who voted Trump in are going to pay attention to, the fact that if the last thing he tried to do as president is to make handicap accessibility laws something of the past, he wanted to toss them out. Please remember your elders, remember your neighbors, and remember your friends, remember your family who are not perfectly healthy, wealthy, white, and straight, because the rest of us love the United States of America, and many of us love you as well. So what I'm asking all of you is look across at your neighbor, recognize your common humanity, recognize that we are all equally passionate because we love the United States of America, and we believe it is a blessing to be part of this country. And we can only make this country great the way our founding fathers envisioned if we work together and we recognize our common humanity. And that is a responsibility that's incumbent on each and every one of us. So I'm going to offer an invitation to all of my Trump-loving friends, family, and associates that if you are one of those Trump people who supported him, but do not believe my existence is contaminating the blood of America, and who actually want handicap laws there, and who actually don't want to see people being rounded up, and who have no problem with gay marriage or interracial marriage, and who don't think that believing in science contrasts against believing in the Bible. If you're one of those people who voted for Trump because of some whatever reason, but you really do care about your neighbor who's different than you, then I want to invite you to reach out to me and say, how can we work together? Because that's the only way this next 4 years is going to be livable without all of us falling down into hate, which none of us will benefit from. I don't want to live in a toxic society. I want to live in a society in which leaders understand they are servants of the people. I want to live in a society in which leaders do not demean others that are different, but recognize the weakest among those they serve as the one they need to pay attention to most, as well as caring for the whole, instead of treating them like they're less than human. That is what I try and strive to do, and I am not perfect. But I will ask all of you, and if you are progressive, I will ask you to reach out to me if you think you can sit down with a conservative and also work together. Because I know living in the Lone Star State, and the Bible Belt, and the American South, we're going to need all y'all in order to move things forward. And that means putting aside the anger. It'll be harder. And I'm going to ask our Republican friends, understand the trust is going to be harder. Because once I know that you voted for someone who stood openly against my human rights and my civil rights, I can't trust you off the bat. I just can't. I can work with you, I can collaborate with you, but the trust is damaged. And it's going to take time over the next 4 years to see that you will stand for someone like me, especially someone like me who doesn't have money or influence and can do nothing for you. And it's the same thing's going to be said to the progressives. We're going to have to see those of you who are willing to set aside the hurt and the frustration and the anger, and despite the lack of trust, which I completely understand, be willing to work with your conservative Trump supporting neighbor. This is going to be a hard process. I'm not saying it's not, but it's going to be a necessary process if our nation is going to get to be everything it can be despite the division that has occurred. And for those of you that are wondering, how I can see things this way. I look at what Abraham Lincoln said after the Civil War. He said that unless the North helped the South to rebuild one day in the future, we would have a sociological civil war. Essentially, he predicted today. And he said that the only way to prevent this or to remedy it would be neighbor helping neighbor, brother helping brother, despite their having different views. And that made me think of my Uncle Jerry and my dad, John Thompson. The two of them, my uncle was very Republican, my dad was very Democrat, and they could really debate. And at the end, they could look at each other with love and respect because they recognized the passion was equal because the love of country and God were equal. And that is the thing we have to keep telling ourselves. Even if someone worships differently, Buddhist, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Native American, Taoist, Hare Krishna, I don't care, fill it in, Wiccan, whatever. If we can recognize our love of Spirit, God, Yahweh, whatever you want to call it, and our love of this nation are equal, and we can recognize our common humanity despite all of the memetics and sociological strategic manipulation aimed to keep us divided, we can survive what is coming ahead. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm depressed and I'm hurt and I'm probably going to cry eventually. But despite that, I am willing to do the work to help our country. Now, on the pragmatic side, yeah, I'm also going to be watching my back. I'm also worried I'm going to take steps to protect myself and my interracial marriage and myself as a bi, brown-skinned female in America. And I'm going to fight again for the things that I care about, especially as a woman that could be killed if I got pregnant by a rapist. You know, those are things that are very real. And I'm going to fight for all the things I believe in. But if you are someone that opposes my views, know that I will also fight for your human rights, because that is what it takes for us to be a cohesive America. So my love to all of you as we all deal with the new realities that we're seeing unfold. And my biggest prayer for the United States of America, for each of you, is that we can work together to find our common humanity and regain the unified passion and strength that it will take to make this incredible experiment, sociological experiment called the United States of America, a success. Because this isn't the end of the story. This is a hump. Earlier today, I was getting my hair done in a salon before I go and speak tomorrow. And I got to hear people from every country you could think of. And they're all talking about how people are walking around London crying or partying with the extremes. And they were just shaking their heads. And it was like hearing older brothers talk about little brothers. And the attitude was, yeah, it's about time. Meaning that every nation goes through these huge divisions and changes. And they're painful. And that made me think about how there have been some horrible and horrendous ones, but there have also been ones that haven't been so bad that other nations have gone through. And yes, there is, in my opinion, a fascist attempt to try and change the value system of our nation and to demean those that are not white, straight, and Protestant, or Trump's type of Protestant. Wealthy, perfectly healthy, and don't need any handicap accessibility. But I do believe there are those who can be reached from either side. And if you are one of those who can see past all of the labels to the human being, then I invite you to sit down and work with me. And I don't know what it will be. I want to hear you. I want to understand you. I want you to know, if you voted for Trump, I recognize your value as a human being. If you voted for Kamala, I recognize your value as a human being. If you voted for none of them, I'm confused by you, but I recognize your value as a human being. And I want to thank all of you for caring enough about the United States of America to be passionate. Because it's really the apathetic that are the greatest threat. But between you and me, if you are passionate and you care, we can truly make America great, because it begins here in our hearts and in our conscience and our connection with Spirit in each of our unique ways. So thank you for all of you for your passion and compassion that you have put out and expressed. And let's get together and roll our sleeves up and get to work. So love to all. Take your time and heal, and know this is not the end. This is going to be a challenge. Whether your side won or not, it is going to be a challenge, because we have to learn to live together, work together, and build something magnificent together. Thank you.